introduction.
Hello.
How's everybody?
Great.
Good. Yeah, I was just thinking about you for this moment.
Okay, thank you for coming. Trade deadline 2025 has passed. I know a lot of fans and probably a lot of people in here prefer a little bit of action. Often we do too. You know, we're always looking for ways to participate in these windows and find guys that can help us be better. But this time around, we just didn't find the value, so we decided to pass. And for us, that's a good thing. We have a group of guys that we're really excited about, a group of guys that, at the start of the season, we wanted to see take big steps, both individually and collectively, and we've seen a lot of that this season. So for us, it's, let's keep going, let's keep building, let's keep getting better day to day, and when this next transaction window hits this summer, we'll see what that entails.
Were you close on anything substantial, and were you aggressive in pursuing, or did you receive a lot of offers or interest?
I would say we got fairly close on a few things. Nothing that drug out all the way through today. Like some of this stuff was exhausted over the last couple weeks, but there were a few that made some sense for us and we thought for the other team, but just didn't happen. Aggressive-wise, we're always trying to be really aggressive, and often that means just canvassing the league. Like we want to, stay engaged with all these teams, really communicate, talk about needs with each other and how we can help each other, and that's our level of aggression, is just to stay connected with these teams throughout this whole process.
Joe, did what's happened in the last 2 weeks with you guys winning as much as you have, did that change anything about your approach going to the deadline, or has the way you guys approach it always been how you were going to approach it?
I think our approach remained the same. We're heavily focused on the big picture. While we're happy about the way things are going, and of course my job is to weigh that and make sure that I'm putting the right dynamics around this team, and I had to consider not rocking the boat, but big picture is way more important for me. I want to build a sustained winner, and the way we've played recently didn't really weigh on these decisions.
When you say you didn't find value, can you kind of expand on what that might mean? I think some of the questions from maybe the larger fan base is what is it that you guys value?
Well, we value good players on good contracts who can contribute to this team long term. So value it depends on if you're trying to add or subtract. If you're trying to add, is that the right value? Is that the player that fits what we're trying to do, cap-wise, talent-wise, positionally, skill set-wise? And conversely, if you're trying to subtract, are you extracting enough value? Are you getting what you deem, the appropriate package back?
Would you say you explored both of those directions?
Yeah, always.
Joe, I think we could say the first half of the season, it looked like you guys were pointed in one direction, which was a summer where you'd be looking to maybe get lucky in the lottery and have a good shot in the lottery. Now you seem to be pointing in a different direction, where the play-in is at least within sight. What is I guess two parts to this? What do you want to see over these final 31 games? Like, what direction do you want to see this team go? And then two, does the fact that strong odds at a high lottery pick no longer seem to be in play, or the most logical direction, how does that change your big picture view of how to go about building that sustained winner versus if a number one pick isn't, let's say, likely?
Sure. The goal for the rest of the season is really the goal from the beginning: continued growth. We've taken some good steps. We've got a lot more steps to take. We want to see those, again, individually and collectively, from our young guys and from our, middle-aged vets to our older vets. Like, these guys keep getting better together and individually. As far as, our projection as a team and just, what do we look like from a talent standpoint, that's our challenge always, is to keep accumulating talent, keep getting as, high end as we can as far as the the players we're adding and the capabilities that these guys bring. And for me, a lot of that still comes with the development. Like, we have a really talented group of guys that are capable of taking multiple steps. And for me, if they're playing well and they're getting better daily and they're learning how to win and build that, winning competitive mentality, for me, that's, real progress for them.
Joe, how do you keep this from being a two timeline situation?
How so, with like veterans and young guys?
If you carry the same veterans through multiple deadlines and multiple transaction windows, how do you keep that from getting down that path?
Yeah. I would argue a lot of us exist in two timeline scenarios where, you see a lot of rebuilding teams. We intentionally have veterans around these guys for a lot of reasons, to provide leadership, to provide functionality on the court, to, provide more talent to a group that, may not be ready to compete on a nightly basis. So, eventually you've got to, as this roster grows and as we continue to, work towards being a sustainable winner, we've got to figure out that balance. And, that's one of our big challenges.
Did any of your vets express to you in the build-up, and vets I realize is relative because you have a lot of relatively young guys who would be considered your veterans. Did any of them express either directly or through their representation a desire to play to be traded at this deadline?
No. Some of them have expressed questions about where this team is headed. It never got to a point where it's like, hey, get me out of here. It's more, what is my role? What does my outlook look like on a young rebuilding team?
Was it tougher in this environment now with the new CBA and everything to extract first-round picks from people, 4 players?
Yeah.
Was that a big hiccup for you guys?
Yeah, I think in the past, let's say the previous 5 years prior to this new CBA, I think we saw first-round picks flying around like crazy. The unprecedented amount of first-round picks going out and swaps. I think that definitely tightened up in this transaction cycle. So it'll be interesting to see if that continues to be tighter, if that loosens up a little bit.
Joe, how close are you to feeling like this group is in a place where, you can go into a season saying, let's try to make the playoffs this year? Like, how far away do you think you are from that being the goal?
Yeah, I hope not far. They've taken, like I said, some really good steps this year. I think, some of these young guys have proven to be capable of playing winning basketball. I would say especially the second half of the season. So, as we continue to build and continue to add players here and get more and more capable, we're hoping that sustained winning isn't too far away.
I can't remember what the scenario was last year, but with Malcolm, in this scenario, did you gain traction last year during the trade deadline of like Noah in Washington? Mm-hmm. And if so, did you find maybe you made some traction for potential deals later?
It's a good question, and it's definitely something I find really valuable about trade deadlines is the foundation you can lay. While you may not be able to get something done in February, what avenues does that, or what opportunities does that open up for a later period, call it the summer? And, we've seen that really with 2 main guys on our roster right now. Jeremy Grant, 2 years ago, a lot of work at the trade deadline, couldn't get anything done. 4 months later, that trade with Jeremy right before the draft, that went really smoothly because we had just done so much pre-work on that. And then Denny Avdia, same thing. So laying those foundations, Denny was a lot of talks in February, heavy talks at the draft. Finally, we got it going. We got the deal done. So, yeah, that provides value. You know what each team is looking for. You have a bit of a foundation about what the package would look like, and it's just sorting out all the details.
Joe, are there drawbacks or concerns about keeping the same group of veterans around the young guys?
Mm-hmm.
Are there inhibitions or things that pop up that keep organizationally you guys from achieving goals with the younger guys?
Sure. I wouldn't call them concerns, but it's something we're always mindful of is that balance, and it's not just the amount of guys or type of guys that are, you're trying to blend together, but it's also the roles and, who's doing what, who's getting the touches, who's getting the minutes, who's getting the starts. Like, it's all these different things we have to consider and then weigh the pros and cons with those. What's the value of these vets? What are they bringing that are, really helping this roster and these young guys and vice versa? How are we hurting the vets? How are we potentially hurting the young guys in their development? So it's a constant balance that, I don't think we've perfected, but I think we've got, our vets, I think really highly of, Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton, Robert Williams. These are really good players, really good guys, really good teammates. They're providing value. So that for me is most important.
Joe, just in general, what are your thoughts on the trade deadline league-wide? Were you surprised by things? Like, did it go about how you thought? Was there more activity, less activity?
Yeah. I thought it was a fun one. I thought it was interesting. It was, I'm a fan too, and I think we all love this, and it's a fun period. Just, seeing the action and activity and seeing the changes and speculating on what could and might happen. And I would say this one, I was probably a little more active than I was expecting. Some of the activity level was a little more cap-based than player-based, but this league has become so cap-dominant, especially under our new system, that, we just have to function and transact accordingly. But I thought it was a fun one and good for the league.
How would you evaluate the job Chauncey's done?
I think he's done a great job. This year, like I said, it was take steps. And, player development obviously is critical for us, having so many young guys. And I'm really proud about the growth that we've seen from really every guy. And then, how do you merge that into a team environment and start, really establishing the style of play that he wants to play? And I think, especially these last 10 games, you've seen that.
Joe, just given what you've seen over these last 10 games and everything else, sorry, Rasan, is it fair to this team to set a goal of trying to get into the mix for the play-in and the playoffs?
Mm-hmm. I think it'd be unfair to take it away from them. Like, for me, I'm so proud and so excited about these guys that sky's the limit. Like, go guys, go win. Let's see what you can do. And I'm here to support it. Thank you, everybody.
Do you have any questions for us?
He's thinking about it.
It's like many. Quite a few.
Joking.